Welcome to the Retrieving Catholicity podcast, where we think about life and ministry in light of the whole truth, the whole church, and why it matters for the whole world. Welcome to the Retrieving Catholicity podcast. I am your host, Mason Ballard. I'm so glad you found us on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or however you are engaging with us today. So as I said, my name is Mason. I'm the lead pastor of Resurrection Church in Charleston, West Virginia. We're actually coming at you from underneath the stage of the Capitol Theater, which we own and operate here in Charleston. Being a pastor is my primary calling, my primary job, my primary vocation. But last week, I defended a dissertation on retrieving Catholicity, a doctrine of the church's universality and wholeness that I think has some hope for renewal of Christian faith and practice today. And so in many ways, this podcast is a continuation of that project. It's a distillation of that project. And it's an opportunity for me to take some of those ideas that I think are helpful for pastors, church planters, Christians broadly, and get those to you in ways that maybe you can consider in a fresh way. So, a podcast. Why am I doing this? Who is this for? What is this? So, we'll start with that question. What in the world is this podcast? I'll do a deep dive in the next episode on the name, Retrieving Catholicity, what we mean by retrieving and what I mean by Catholicity. For now, though, this podcast will be an opportunity for us to think theologically about the church and her ministry. And when I say think theologically about the church, I mean thinking about the church not just as a collection of people, a human society, a group of people who do a particular thing, but as a theological creature, right? Who are we? Who does the Bible say that the church is? What exactly is the church? And so I want to think about the nature and being and ministry of the church through a theological lens, meaning who is God and who are we in response to him. I want to apply the doctrine of Catholicity because I think it has all sorts of helpful application points, that it is, as we'll see in the next episode, a doctrine of wholeness and universality. Because the church is whole, how do I think of my own ministry, my own life, my own church in light of this greater whole? And I want to help you do that if you're an interested Christian. This is an opportunity for us to think theologically about the church, to apply this work I've done on my dissertation into all manner of respective ideas and spheres of church life. So who exactly is a podcast like this for? I think there's a few people. First is church members here of Resurrection Church. This is an extension of pastoral ministry for me in some sense. Early in this podcast, we will extend dissertation topics to a lay audience, but after we've covered some of those, then we'll have a much broader topic pool to choose from. We're thinking about the whole truth, the whole church, and its implications for the whole world, which gives us license to talk about a lot of things. And I've learned that pastorally, there are times where it's helpful to address maybe a cultural issue, something going on in our city, something going on in our country, in our culture, that when I'm just preaching through books of the Bible on the stage, it doesn't necessarily come up. And so I do think this will be for us a resource to help equip you to live Christianly in your ordinary life. So I think at a very basic level, this podcast is for church members of Resurrection, and it's an extension of my own pastoral ministry. But this podcast is not just for people who call Resurrection home. I hope many of you engage with this content who are not members of our church. I think it'll be a place for theological reflections on ministry, on pastoral ministry, on church life, and all manner of things that I hope help you think theologically about your own life, your own ministry, and your own local church. I think other pastors and other church planters will hopefully benefit from some of the things we discuss in the shows or episodes that lie ahead. But nonetheless, I think this is worth doing. So, who's this for? Resurrection Church members, interested Christians, pastors and church leaders who are interested in thinking about how the whole Christian church may have something to say for their own situatedness. It is a podcast where we think about the whole truth, the whole church, and its implications for us. It's not really just an academic dialogue. I'm not entering into the YouTube sphere to go back and forth with all kinds of other people. And I do think maybe if you're a non-Christian, I'm just going to process things the way I process them in some of these episodes. And so if that's helpful for you, maybe you'll engage with the Christian story, you'll engage with the good news of Jesus, maybe for the first time. So if you've stumbled upon this and you're a non-Christian, I hope that you will engage it.